Impact on cost of shipping, and an increase in cost of shipping means an increase in cost of goods, so it's already having an impact.
So ile kuku yangu itaenda juu.
Like a nonsense.
Boss, man, that kuku already went up. It can how much more can it go up?
Utajua hujui.
Hata ile mkate yako ni kanganyama katikati ile ya South Africa inaenda juu.
Boss bana. Wewe mnakumbuka ile boflo?
So now
ile uwekwaga kadhufu ndani.
Mika, see me on the side.
So Washeke says Kenya has opened itself to do dirty work for the US. I strongly agree with what Washeke is saying.
Yeah, but also we have to think about it this way. We're in a position where if these guys are willing to pay us and somebody is saying, well, you know what, let them pay us in dollars and we don't have to use our own money to pay back these debts and me sitaki deni.
But now you see another thing that
but then those dirty jobs, how
Mika,
are they putting us in the eyes of other? No, emotionally you have to consider things like
correct. Yeah, Mika, you're very right.
If let's say we say okay, America can launch a base in Kenya and they can attack the Houthi rebels from Kenya. How does it expose us to attacks from the Houthis or whoever supports the Houthis?
Man, we exposed every which way. We become exposed every which way if we're accommodating from that perspective to allow them to launch from, or if we ourselves take it on and under the guise of a so-called peacekeeping force,
because think about
we
it,
go in.
Right now, most countries that the US has requested to partner with them in patrolling the Red Sea, most of those countries have said no. Most of those countries have refused. I don't know whether there's one that may have agreed, but at this point, most of them have refused because US likes going with that idea that we are going as a coalition.
Correct.
So that they don't have, like these targets.
It doesn't look like, yes, it's them who are doing the attack, right?
Yeah. So now, and of course, they cannot, go through Congress to get their Navy to go declare war at the Red Sea because that's not even going to pass through Congress at the moment. No one has an appetite for that. So this is just a theory that I have in my mind.
With Afghanistan and all these other places.
It's just a theory that I have in my mind because now the new thing that's happening within the Pentagon is they're kind of looking for different partners in different parts of the world who can fight on their behalf with promises of goodies on the other side.
Yes.
So I think
it makes sense. I mean,
I think that's a deal.
It's outsourced.
So it makes sense. It depends. Now, when you see what's happening in Sudan right now, because that's another conflict that has not been talked about for a very long time. Sudan, what's happening, there's a proxy war that's happening in Sudan right now. There's one side that's on the American side, and there's another side that's on the Russian side. So there's an American-Russia proxy war happening in Sudan. Because remember, these guys are being supplied by weapons. Despite the fact that there's nothing going on, these weapons are still firing. They're still firing, so they're coming from somewhere. There's still a supply of weapons. So sometimes when you think strategically, yes, you'll get the money, but you're exposing yourselves. Like in case US ends up on the losing side, you're now exposing yourself in a way that we've never been exposed
Other than losing,
before.
I mean, you would potentially get attacked internally.
Exactly.
And once those things, they never stop. I mean, look at what happened to us with Somalia.
Exactly.
I mean, and it's, to this day, we still have issues.
We still have issues.
Wasn't it just here in December when these Jamas were trying to quell things in Northeastern?
Yeah, we still have issues
and
today.
Those have rolled over, trickled down from us occupying or going into Somalia in 2011.
Yeah.
It was in 2011.
Yeah, so Afro-Jamaican is asking World War. What World War? You mean the two European tribal wars of the 19th century? Okay, call them European tribal wars, but guess what, Afro-Jamaican? There were Kenyans on the front line. There were, I strongly believe, Jamaica was a British colony. I believe some of your grandparents or your great-grandparents,
they were out there fighting.
They were out there. So whether we want to call it a tribal war, like we remember the time.
That war was a tribal war, but then we had an atomic bomb dropped in Japan.
Exactly. And we had people in the front lines. We had people from, they recruited or maybe they forced
There
people
was a
from
war that
other
was
tribes.
fought in North Africa because of that war.
Yes. So again, like we can look at it the way we want, but like our great grandparents were in the front lines.
They went to Burma to fight
in this war. Like Afro-Jamaican, I suggest you look at the translation of a song by Malian artist Salif Keita. It's called Nupa Bouger. Just go read the translation of that song, and maybe you'll understand why there's these wars, despite them being tribal issues within Europe, they involved the whole world. And then Washeke says that's how we became targets for Al-Shabaab. But now, outside, let's even leave, the peace and security part. The other interesting part of this, it's a very short paragraph, like by the White House. And this is how they operate. Economic ties. So they mentioned they want to expand economic ties. So expansion of economic ties. What exactly does that mean? Remember,
sounds like the trade
there's a trade deal called AGOA that's expiring. It has a sunset clause. I believe it's expiring in 2025.
2025,
Yeah, and there's been no indication that it's being renewed. Maybe it might be renewed.
But you also have to qualify. Remember, Kenya, based upon what the qualification criteria is to go into AGOA, Kenya does not.
No, Kenya is in AGOA.
Yeah, no, okay, but wasn't it based upon the country being there are certain things that you had to hit certain economic
so Kenya, the export processing zone, like the export processing zone is still exporting stuff to America based on AGOA. I think the problem that Kenya started experiencing is that the sourcing of the material of the items being made was supposed to be sourced locally. But at some point for those clothes, Kenya started sourcing the material in China. So that became a problem. But I think there's still, even when you go to a lot of stores here, you'll still see a lot of clothes that are made in Kenya.
Yeah, they're made in Kenya, are many.
Yeah, so AGOA is expiring, and now there's some jitteriness because this is going to have a very big impact to a lot of African countries that were under that AGOA agreement and that were exporting products to the US under AGOA. And then also remember, there's this trade deal that we were just talking about. Between Kenya and the US.
The permanent joint.
So I think, like the Biden administration is seeing such a gap. It's seeing such a big gap where they can lure, like President Ruto in some sort of virtual trap. I mean, of course, President Ruto likely and his people know what's going on, but I think in their minds, their highest priority at the moment is getting reelected in 2027. That's the highest priority for President Ruto at the moment. And remember, President Biden, if he wins the election this year, is going to be in power until 2028.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to be in power until 2028. So this works very well in that they can milk this. I don't think they have any intention of signing it anytime soon because there are so many things they want to achieve from Kenya before they put a signature. So they'll tell them, do this and do this and do this before we sign this. Do this and do this and do this before we sign this. So in all honesty, I don't think this trade deal is going to be signed until maybe close to that. They will try to close in until, because remember in 2027, Biden will still be in power. And now he'll have a serious carrot. Like you have an election coming,
Unatakaje, boss?
And this is something that we can use to influence, because America, in as much as they talk about, democracy and everything, they do a lot of things on the side to influence elections in other places. And this is something that they know President Ruto can potentially use in his favor, because it's a permanent trade deal. A permanent trade deal is a big deal. It's not, like one of these quick trade agreements we have that we're going to be exporting this or importing this. It's much bigger than AGOA. So that's right there. This is the other thing that I think the Biden administration is going to use and going to milk it until Kenya does everything they want. Remember, in this trade deal, and that's why I encourage people to go read it, one of the clauses says that we must support Israel. And remember, this trade deal came before Gaza.
Yes.
You know, like on
Correct,
any
yes.
issues that come up for vote in the UN, we must support Israel.